So currently, I think from our company perspective, and since we deal with a lot of customers and their data protection comes as the biggest, risk threat, whatever you call it as. And from there, and every day there's laws are changing, and with that, the new threats, especially the cyber threats, which is happening across the globe, and the level of the cyber threats are also happening at a much greater speed, and and the tax has also been quite rigorous, and that's what we are facing. And I think the cyber laws, and or the cyber threats, along with the data protection from our perspective, is the biggest threat. So we have definitely for that done a lot of preventions, and the way we built our systems, the way we have ensured that data protection mechanisms within the country. We have the data protection officer, we have data protection, and both from the IT side and the process side, and also we have invested huge amount of money to ensure that all the customer data, all the employees data, all the data effectively are protected, and so we are putting in a lot of effort, a lot of investments, and a lot of technology behind protecting this data protection, protecting the data of our partners. So it's a combination. If you look at it, if everything goes on well, that doesn't mean that things are fine. Here you have to be always in a preventive maintenance scenario. So a data protection breach can be it can be lethal in terms of the company. Any kind of it's a reputational risk. It's a huge financial risk. It's a penalty and potential a lot of regulatory problems which a company can face with the legal liabilities and everything. So everything going well is everything going silent is not the ideal thing. It's you have to be constantly on a prevention mode, and especially a multinational company like us, where the laws are different in different countries, and you have to abide by it. So, for instance, we definitely have to abide by the Indian law. We are in India, but we are a French company. So, in which case the French laws are, and which is extremely stringent, and we have to abide by those as well. So that's what we have in the nodal, all our risk and compliance officers, the data protection officers, the cyber protection officers. So we have various of all those people who are on a lookout to see that all those legal obligations and the process and the technology obligations are all met, and thereby we try to ensure that we are all it's a huge process. It's a big rigorous process which we follow within the company, and ensure that we abide by all those and protect the company from any kind of liabilities which might turn. I'll go with the more of kind of a prevention-based approach, whereby we have like a lot of people who's ensuring that this new laws, whatever is coming in, what is this impact it has potentially for us. Because I absolutely right when you're saying that every day some new regulations are coming, new laws are coming, and changes. Some of them are retrospective effects, some of them are prospective, but everything has its impact. Lots of laws are changing for good, and something may not be in the right way. But we have to kind of always on the toes. We have our consultants obviously in place. We have a battery of lawyers in place. So we definitely again it's goes into the same thing. Suppose something goes wrong, it has a complete impact financially as well as legally and reputationally. for which we ensure that we have the right set of people. We do invest. It's the cost of compliance for us is ever growing, and I'm sure it will go in. But not only that, we have definitely taken a lot of help from the technology aspect also. We have built, we have tied up with some of the legal firms, some of the big four firms, whereby we create, the new laws and regulation which is coming. We have created our own compliance tool, and we ensure that those compliance tools are filled up across the organization, and that and they have to kind of fill up that all the compliance related matters. So we know that in one place at the executive committee level that all the things are working well. And more importantly, it's about the people. We ensure that time to time we disseminate all this information across to the various people within the organization. What are the things which is changing, and what are the things which might potentially have an impact within the company? Suppose some laws are getting changed within the HR side, so we go through the with the HR team and tell them this is some of the things which is going to impact us on a go forward basis. And if anything, any kind of an issue is there with respect to that previously, and how do we do the change management and ensure that so one is the dissemination of the information. Second is integrating that same with our compliance tool, so that we follow that things are not happening. And third, most importantly, the process flow, to ensure that that doesn't recur in the future, and as much as possible built in the technology layer, so that we do it in a very systematic manner. Because from a company like our size, sometimes it's when we have offices across the India, across the globe, sometimes it's very difficult to kind of handle things manually. So we, as much as possible, the process and technology covers the overall impact, or tries to protect overall impact, if any. So you're right. It cannot be handled by a finance function only. It is the way it works for us is that there is a compliance governance board, and that compliance board governance board even have the all the heads of the departments, the various departments, including the CEO. And that compliance governance board meets on a very very regular basis. And we have our compliance officer and compliance. Actually, the compliance officer is one is an overarching compliance officer, but for each of the department there's a compliance book. Spock is also there, so who kind of ensures that all the day-to-day things are done in their respective organization. So that compliance governance board meets on a regular level and kind of decide what are the kind of things which is happening new, what are the actions which we have decided or on a regular basis, and what are the new things which is coming in, what are the issues which we are facing, and how are we addressing it. So that's it's getting regularly kind of discussed. So that's a governance board. We also have independent internal auditors, who's kind of does a compliance check, compliance audit every time. And so yes, so that's the dissemination of information happens right at the top. So the information, as that all the department heads are involved in there, so they are respectively ensure that the information gets adequately covered, the responsibility and the and all the the authorities and responsibilities are kind of rightfully given to the respective department. And yes, finance obviously has the role of internal audit being there. Finance ourselves, we have our compliance officer within our department who directly reports up to me. And so it's a kind of a we try to kind of inculcate it as a DNA of the organization. and business as usual, because it's you compliance is something which cannot be after things have happened. It has to be on a preventive maintenance mode always. Oh yes, every month we are we do an assessment every month. I'll not say assessment, but over every like for instance, we meet every time and we kind of we so starting of the year itself, when this year starts, you kind of do this are the risk assessment at this point of time, and then every month, let's take, we have a meeting and where we our business, what is happening, is there any risk, further risk, is any risk which was in the yellow category has come down to green. If it's a red, it's a very serious issue. I don't think we have seen the red part of it. So for every risk assessment, there is a traffic signal which is always built in. There's a medium risk, there is a high risk, there is a low risk. High risk, I will not say there's potential risk might be there, but nothing kind of so okay, we monitor it on a very traffic signal basis, and but every once in a quarter we reassess the risk, that if there is anything which is additionally come in, or something which has fallen from maybe a medium risk to a low risk kind of category. So we constantly reassess our position, basically on a quarterly basis, but on a monthly basis is more a kind of whether there is anything to based on our compliance tool, based on our other related factors, whatever is happening in terms of cyber risk or data protection risk, which I kind of it's check. Challenges or something like that, once it becomes a DNA, then it's a part of you, and which this is like it's not something which is like another big activity which we are taking on, and once you kind of inculcate it within you, it's another part, like the way we do audit, like the way we do other financial management, it's a part of it. But I see the way things are changing, the environment changes very fast, so sometimes that becomes a challenge. So it's new law suddenly comes in, like some code has come in, some new laws are coming in, and hey, now suddenly you have to change the gear, because you're going in one direction. Suddenly what is that new things which has come in, or the severity of the attack sometimes can be with respect to cyber things can grapple you, and you say, hey, look, we need to kind of reassess our defense mechanism, and I try to kind of see how to go forward. So then you have to reassess some of those things, and that is a little challenging. But once you are used to something, it becomes a very, very part of you. But it's certainly a big challenge. Definitely, it's a big challenge, because things are changing at a very rapid scale. And risks are also today's risk or yesterday's. So yesterday's risk is still there, but today there is another risk which is coming in. I think it's definitely not something just a hygiene factor. It's definitely because if you're stuck by it, it's a potentially your revenue can go off, your bottom line can go off. So in that sense, it kind of contributes everywhere. Today, if you kind of go to a customer and say, hey, you know what, I had some big issues, I don't think your customers will like to, if you have some data protection issue, and then it's all over the media, and it's I do not believe any customer will come back to you. So it's going to have a tremendous impact in your top line and bottom line, definitely. So if it's definitely much more than the hygiene factors. It's something which is you strengthen it, because at the end of the day, you're talking in the technology company, which is one code mistake and there can be a lethal consequence. So it is something which you don't see it, but if you see it on the negative side, it can cost you a hell lot as a company. Right. That's a very good question. So we think that compliance means protecting data of the employee, protecting data of the customers, or it's only related to your customer related matter. No, I don't think so. It's also much to the employees. It's so many employees. For us, hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands of people are there, and a lot of people come in, a lot of people go in, and and you work on a very like for us it's hybrid working. Some people work from home, some people work from office. So how do you ensure that when people are not in office, how do you protect those data, or even the employee data, or even for the the vendor things. Whenever the vendor comes in, what is the credibility of the vendor, what is the kind of is there a BCG process, background verification process for the employees, background verification process for the vendors, is because it can have a pretty bad impact if none of the things goes like goes well in there. So so for us it's all across. It's definitely something which we need to ensure that we not only cover our customer, but definitely employees and our vendors, our wider partners, shareholders. All the pillars of the companies are definitely protected, and so we, because it can see any bad implications can have even implication to the board of directors of or employees, different employees. So it's a overall compliance is a very overarching thing within the organization, and again it's an invisible overarching factor which is which you have to protect it, and which we have to imbibe as our own DNA. That's what I feel. People take compliance. Sometimes I've seen in many companies that compliance is a things to be ticked off. It's a good to have it. You don't know how much you have to invest, because there's nothing immediate benefit which comes in. And it's sometimes say if I'm spending 5% of our cost within the compliance, is it the right amount? Is it 2% is the right amount? 3%? Sometimes you really don't know, because there is no IRR here. It's something which is which you really don't get the immediate benefit out of it. But it's like something you don't. Sometimes it becomes a part of a finance job. Sometimes it becomes a part of maybe some other compliance legal function. But to me, if you do not, it's a big mistake. Some of the companies, I personally feel we do it, because if you have to sleep well at night, you have to ensure that your compliance is thorough, because if anything goes wrong in there, it can potentially wipe out your credibility which you have established for years together. So there might not be IRR, but it's like 0-1 situation. If things are going, it's great. If things goes bad, so so do not look at it as a something which will give you immediate benefit, but take it as a cost, which and take it as a something which you really put in as a DNA of the company. Else things can go. If the people who have faced it, we can name various companies today. We see in the newspaper that this company has gone because of compliance has gone down and all this thing. So it can, if you do not put in adequate investment, technology, process, and most importantly, the entire organization support, it can bite you back very badly.